What's up, y'all? How you guys doing? Today we're talking about mechanics. We're going to be talking about everything there is about mechanics, what are mechanics, what is micro, and kind of understanding what makes good mechanics, how to improve yours, and all of that. So this is kind of a introduction to all of the mechanics in the game, and how to understand them and how to start working on your own. So today you can see I got a list of stuff we're going to talk about here. We're going to talk about what are mechanics. We're going to talk about different types of mechanics. And we're going to talk about how they build on each other. So let's go ahead and get started with it. First thing, understanding mechanics and micro, right? We often talk about micro versus macro. Micro, very generally speaking, is the execution of ideas and the execution, your own individual execution of ideas, right? Where macro is more kind of team related. It's higher level strategy related. That means knowing stuff and doing the work it takes to know stuff. Things like understanding what items your opponent has, understanding where the opponent is at. Those are micro mechanical skills. Executing an idea is a mechanical skill. Even knowing your combos would be considered a mechanical skill because that's very micro. It's related to you. It's related to your 1v1. It's related to executing what you should have to be able to execute on your champion. So examples of information you need to properly do your micro is like knowing your combos, knowing the enemy's combos, knowing power spikes, and knowing like kind of what people are doing, knowing the enemy's intention, having some of that oppositional empathy. Now I've dropped a whole video on this topic because this topic is complicated. It's a mental warfare thing. If you guys look up JS method, oppositional empathy, it'll come up. But just kind of being able to read your opponent and understand what they're doing and what they're thinking, that's a mechanical skill. Once again, what is macro then? Because a lot of people are like, well, this stuff all sounds like macro to me. Like knowing what's going on sounds like macro. Well, macro is understanding how to play the map and knowing kind of wave management is a good example of macro. Knowing exactly when what wave state is good and bad, knowing tempo and knowing how to play with your team, or what plays to set up is best for your team, or what objectives you guys need to end out a game. That's all macro. It's higher level, it's strategy, and it's team related. Where mechanics is kind of the opposite. Micro is you, very focused on you, and mechanics specifically is execution of ideas. So that's what micro is. The very first mechanic, and the mechanic that is often overlooked, is information gathering. Being able to do the things you have to do to be aware of what's going on is a mechanical idea. This enables us to do what the other things we want to do. It enables us to do our cool combos. It enables us to do our plays. It enables us to make the right decision. How do you make the right macro decision without all of the information? You can't. So getting that information is a mechanical micro skill. And there's a lot of things that go into information gathering. You could say I have quite a few pictures here. One of the most basic ones is map awareness and awareness of where people are at. That starts with the mini map. And again, that's a mechanical skill. Oftentimes when we're working on this, what we'll do is we'll set a timer that'll go off every 5 seconds. So if you guys just look up like 5-second interval timer on YouTube, you can get a video that'll bring this up for you. And then we'll make a sound, it'll make a ding, and every time it dings, you look at your minimap, you kind of assess what's going on, and you come back, right? That's how we work on that mechanic. And that process of moving your eyes, looking at what's happening, and then moving them back is a micro idea. It's important we get that locked in. We can take that to a deeper level, and we can move our camera, right? That's why I have the F keys here. You get the F keys, your camera moves to where you're F keying to. Now you get to see even more. You're not just seeing the little pictures on the minimap. Now you're seeing health, you're seeing mana, you're seeing cooldowns getting used. Maybe you're seeing a flash or whatever. So that's another deeper level of better mechanical information gathering. Being able to know where both teams are at and where they could be. Again, mechanical ideas. Being able to say, okay, they went here. I just saw their jungler on the map when they were crossing over for whatever reason. I see the amount of camps they have. I know a camp is 4 CS. I've deduced they haven't gotten these and they're about to get these. That's micro. The next kind of part of information gathering is being aware of how strong people are at different power levels. So hitting tab and being able to say, okay, maybe I'm the Rise in this situation. I'm like, okay, Yasuo is on shield bow, but he's not quite on IE. So like He's on his mythic, but he's not quite on IE. He's really, really strong on IE. He's really strong on 2 items. He's not quite there yet. I have a small opportunity now, but in 5 minutes on his next back, he's going to be a nightmare to deal with. I'm not going to be able to contest that, right? Being aware of who's strong, or in this situation, looking at the Nidalee and being like, well, Nidalee is incredibly strong. If we can get that shutdown, great, but we're never going to take her in a fair fight. We're never going to 1v1 with her. We're never going to 2v2 with her. That is information gathering. That's the most fundamental mechanic because it lays the ground for the rest of your mechanics. You cannot make the right decisions. You cannot take the right fights without all of the correct information. These mechanics are actually the most commonly underperformed mechanics I see in my clients. From silver, bronze, all the way up to gold and platinum, people are not looking at their minimap enough. They're not moving their camera enough. They're not hitting tab enough. They don't actually know what's going on. If you don't do the work, and mechanics are work, to see what's going on, you will not make the right decisions. So focus on this. There are ways to work on all of these. I recommended the interval timer for the minimap. That works for all of these things. If you set an interval timer for 5 seconds, that every time it dings, you hit tab. After a couple days of doing that, you're hitting tab all the time. Same with your F keys. If you want to start learning how to F key or just to move your camera in general, just look up 5-second interval timer on YouTube, click the video, and have at it, practice on it. The next thing is champion specifics. Now, every champion in the game kind of just has like a skill check associated with them. Here I have kind of 3 varying levels. I have the hardest on the left and the easiest on the right here. They have varying levels of just skill checks to get their damage through, right? Annie's is being able to hit her Q on top of you, right? Or her R on top of you. Ari's is landing her skill shot, right? Landing her charm. Aurelia's is more complicated. It's stacking your passive, doing the auto attacks very, very effectively, landing her E. All of those things are complicated, using her Q for mobility throughout the wave to dodge skill shots. So Aurelia's definitely the hardest here. So these champion mechanics are things like auto attacking, the combos your champion may have, landing your spells like Aurelia's E or your charm, spacing correctly, knowing your range and being able to tether people. All of this is champion specifics. So the reason we recommend to play a small amount of champions is because every single champion you add just adds a bunch of more champion specifics you have to learn, right? For every champion you add, you have to know another champion's range, another champion's damage output, another champion's combos, another champion's how auto attacking timing, another champion's how you relate to other champions, another champion's power spikes. So we stick to a small champion pool to reduce the amount of variables we have to learn about. And going even further, this is why I recommend people play Annie, because this aspect of the game gets minimized when you're playing a relatively simple champion. It lets you focus on other fundamentals. Like for me, I started playing Annie when I was in Diamond. And a lot of people think, well, she's such a simple champion, she can't be good at high elo. But she's the one who brought me from Diamond to Masters the first time, because I didn't have to worry about my champion. I didn't have to worry about auto attacking that much. I didn't have to worry about crazy combos. My combos were really simple. But what it taught me was it taught me how to information gather. It taught me how to F key, like we talked about in the last slide. It taught me how to look at my map more because I wasn't so focused on looking at my darn champion. This is a really big point. Make sure you're limiting your champion pool. And if you can handle it, play simple champions. Next mechanic is movement specifics. Now, when we're talking about movement, cursor control and movement are like the foundation for your auto attacking and for doing your combos. And there's kind of 2 parts to movement, and it mostly comes down to your cursor. So in this clip, you can see Rise's cursor is here, and he actually just clicked here, which means his cursor went here, and now it's here. And there's 2 parts to cursor and movement. There's the quality of your cursor, and there's the quantity of your clicks. Quantity is often measured in APM, actions per minute, if you guys have heard about that. But quality is, generally speaking, having sharp, tight, unpredictable movements. So you want to be random, right? If you're clicking all in the same spot, even if you're clicking lots, it's going to become predictable. That's poor movement. You want to be able to be sharp. So, have 1 click happen here, 1 click happen here, 1 click happen here. They don't know which direction you're going to commit to. This is going to help you dodge skill shots and that kind of thing better. Quantity is just how much you click, right? And the more you click, the more opportunity you have to create your movements to be sharper. Very generally speaking, the higher quality we can get, Quality has kind of two parts to it. There's the deception part, so you want to do things your opponent doesn't expect, but there's also the sharp part. To create sharper movements, you keep your cursor closer to your champion. Now, I'm going to draw an example here. So if you could keep your cursor within this yellow circle, it's going to be generally higher quality. Let me explain why. If Rise here clicks once here, and then his second click is out here, what's going to happen is he's going to start walking this way. And then as his cursor moves and as he walks along all the way over here before he clicks, he's going to change directions, right? And you can see this in the blue lines. Now I'm going to draw some yellow lines with some shorter clicks, and we're going to notice some differences. So let's say one click goes here, and he moves his cursor faster, and the second click goes here. He's going to come up a little bit, and then he's going to come back a little bit. Do you see how this is shorter? It's sharper. That is what good movement looks like. That is how you move sharper unpredictably. Because if you can turn on a dime like that, then you can dodge skill shots easier, you can chase people down easier, all of these things. It requires keeping your cursor closer to your champion and clicking faster and moving your mouse faster from here to here. So not only is this less distance, but the faster you can cover it, the better. Very generally speaking, the closer your clicks are to your champion, the better you are. When your clicks are long and they create these slow, long lines, we would actually call that a long click. And it creates this super linear movement, and a linear is bad. Linear equals bad mechanics, right? Linear just means in a long straight line. So if you're in these long straight lines, it's bad. You want to be a little bit more jittery, a little bit more unpredictable, so you can kind of dip in and out of skill shots, or you can kind of dance on somebody's edge of their range and then bait out their spell, and then you full commit to them. Or you can click at them and pretend you're going on a strong linear line, but the second you see them turn around to cast a spell on you, you dip out immediately. And if you're really sharp with it, you dodge that skill shot and then you kill them. That's what good movement looks like. And movement is really, really important because it sets the foundation for you being able to dodge skill shots and then to, dodge their range and avoid their range, and then to land your stuff and to auto attack effectively. So when we're talking about cursor control and movement, there's two parts you want to think about. You want to think about quality. That's where your cursor clicks are at. Generally, you want them close to you and you want them to be unpredictable. And then we have the quantity, and that's just how much you click, oftentimes measured in APM or actions per minute. The next thing is last hitting. Now, last hitting is a very important mechanic, not just for minions, but also for things like jungle camps and dragons and barons. And it's the idea of, there's two parts that go into last hitting. There's tracking the incoming damage, so you know all the things that are hitting it, and then knowing the timing when your auto attack will land or how much damage you can do in one instance and how fast that can connect. So I actually stole this picture from my LOL wave management video. If you guys look up JS method, LOL wave management 101, this will come up and you'll see me explain it a little bit more in depthly. But very basically, when we're trying to optimize the last hit, there's a couple of different things here. We need to understand all of the incoming damage. So let's say that caster bullets are coming. And I'm just going to draw these little yellow lines. Imagine these are like caster bullets, or little projectiles. Every time a caster hits, it's going to do a little chunk of damage. Now let's say when the minion gets to this health, that caster bullet will kill the minion. That means you would have to last hit it right before this caster bullet lands once the HP is at or below this threshold. If there's a melee minion hitting it, the melee minion strike is going to kill it till about here. So if it's just melee minions, you wouldn't have to last hit it until it's at or below this threshold. And this is how last hitting works. If you want to last hit effectively, all the way on the left side of the spectrum, you would wait until it's at or below the threshold of the incoming damage, and then you would do your damage right before their damage lands. It's the same thing for smiting an objective. If you have an objective and you know that your smite does 1200 damage, you would track their damage, wait until their damage puts it at your threshold, then you would commit to it. So learning how to last hit's very important. It's very important for farming minions. It's very important for securing objectives or for securing kills if you're like somebody who needs the gold, like if you're playing ADC, or for stealing camps from the enemy. Understanding how to track damage coming into something and understanding how much damage you can do and when you should do it, very, very important. So those were all of the basic fundamentals. Anything on top of that, I call a compound mechanic, right? And that's just combining the ideas we talked about. So things like orb walking or auto spacing, that's where you kind of auto attack and you move and you auto attack and you maximize your damage per second because you're always auto attacking, but you also optimize how much you can move in between. We would call this auto spacing. You hear some people call it orb walking, which I think is a bit of a dated term, but this is a compound mechanic between understanding your champion's auto attacks and understanding good quality movement. That's a compound mechanic. 2v2, 3v3, skirmishes, team fights, these are also compound mechanics because you have to understand more than just you and your opponent. It's you and your teammate and your opponent, right? These ideas are often improved through focusing on lower level fundamental mechanics, right? When we misplay a team fight, it's usually because we messed up, gathering information, or we messed up our champion's mechanics, or we didn't understand an enemy's mechanics. So compound mechanics are just building the ideas on top of each other, but the core mechanics are what we really need to focus on when we're thinking about improving our micro. The information gathering, the doing your champion's mechanics correctly, the movement, the auto attacking the champion specifics, that kind of stuff. So this was an introduction to fundamental mechanics. I hope this video helped you guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions about mechanics or anything specific. Let me know what kind of videos you guys would like to see next, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.